What an honor to be here at the Black Sea Security Forum and to have such a distinguished guest who can give us the proper insight into past, present, and potentially future. Petro Poroshenko. President Poroshenko, who, for today's purpose, we will remember that he was president for 5 years. He's a distinguished political leader now, but he was also a foreign minister at one stage, even before he became president. So I think his insights are going to be very relevant to Ukraine's situation today. But Mr. President, I understand you have a few opening comments or statements to, rather, thoughts to share. Maybe you,
standing. First of all, thank you very much for this very early morning you are in this hall. It is extremely important for us now to have an important dialogue, not dialogue about the past. A significant part of this time we pay for the present, but definitely we should discuss the future. І в чому особливість сьогоднішнього дня? І з чого я хотів би почати? Перш за все, я хотів би почати зі слів вдячності Збройним силам України. Бо сьогодні вночі, щоб Одеса спокійно спала, Збройні сили України і повітряні сили, і протиповітряна оборона Одеси збила більше 20 шахедів, які Путін спрямував проти Одеси, одеситів і проти нас. Ніхто з вас навіть нічого не почув. Ми вже інші. І я тішуся і пишаюся тим, що розроблені моєю командою засоби радіоелектронної боротьби і засоби протидії технічній розвідці Росії, комплекси Айпетри сьогодні брали безпосередню участь для того, щоб захищати інфраструктуру, енергетику, місто і порт Одеси. Нас з вами. Отже, я хочу подякувати і представникам оборонної промисловості, які абсолютно інші і змінили цю ситуацію за 5 останніх років. Звичайно, я хотів би подякувати моєму колезі Олексію Гончаренку за те, що він зробив цей неймовірний форум, і питання безпеки обговорюються не лише в Мюнхені, не лише в Галіфаксі і не лише в Києві. Бо я вважаю, що Одеса і ми з вами є одним із найкращих місць, де ми це можемо обговорювати. Дякую. Рідна Одеса. І третя позиція, яку я вважаю, я хотів би сказати українською мовою, бо ми з Богданом домовилися, що ми переходимо після цього англійською. В чому особливість поточної ситуації і поточного моменту? Я хочу наголосити, і я відповідально заявляю, що зараз, в травні 26-го року, Україна, Європа і світ ніколи не були так близько до миру, як зараз в цей день. І наше з вами принципове завдання – скористатися цим вузьким вікном можливостей, window of opportunities. Скористатися для того, щоб використати можливості Збройних сил, українського народу, української влади, Європи, Сполучених Штатів Америки, для того, щоб забезпечити. Путіну колись дуже подобалась фраза «примусити до миру». Ми маємо зараз розвернути і використати все від нас залежне для того, щоб Путіна примусити до миру. І я твердо переконаний, готовий аргументовано надати докази. Сьогодні це точно можливо. І нам для цього треба використати всі зусилля. Отже, примусимо Путіна, Росію до миру і забезпечимо європейське майбутнє України. І дякую всім, хто цього ранку прийняв рішення поспілкуватися з нами.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for setting the atmospheric scene, shall we say, for our discussion. I'd like to remind our audience that President Poroshenko was president when the war that Russia launched, not the full-scale war, but the grabbing of Crimea, the incursions and occupation of eastern Ukraine, he was there when it was happening. And it's strange to think that this year, in August, we will be celebrating 35 years of Ukraine's independent statehood, its modern version of it. And 1/3 of that period, we have been at war with Russia in one form or another. And I think you, Mr. President, are probably most qualified of all to comment on parallels, lessons learned, looking forward, etc. But let me ask you off the top of your head, quickly, 35 years of independence. What has that meant, not only for Ukraine, but for you in your personal development as a businessman, as a politician, as a statesman? Please.
Let's divide these 35 years and try to define what is good for these 35, what is bad for these 35, and what is ugly for these 35. Good.
Are you intending to say that we're a Western country, or a Western film?
I intended to say as Ukrainian one. And at the end of the day, Ukraine is a Western now. So what is good? Good is Ukraine is still exists. After 12 years of war with one of the biggest power in the world, crazy dictator Putin. At the beginning of the war, they could name Russian army as the second in the world, and how Ukraine theoretically can survive. Now, first time I can name Ukraine as the strongest army in Europe, undoubtedly. Nobody has any doubt on that. And because of Ukrainian people, and because of Ukrainian armed forces, strongest on the continent, Ukraine is still exists. Point number 2, still good. Ukraine not anymore post-Soviet territory, not ex-USSR. Ukraine is official candidate for the future member of European Union. I dream that Ukraine still has a possibility to be the future candidate for the member of NATO, because it's impossible to create the sustainable security situation on the continent without the fact that the strongest armed forces on the continent would be the member of the strongest security organization. And point number 3, this is I have no doubt that in the brain of Ukrainian, we have farewell. I say farewell to Russia. Not anymore. Return back to the Russian Empire. For the bad things is a war. And we definitely need to undertake enormous efforts to use this opportunity and to stop the war now. Now means not within 3 years, not somewhere in next March, within 1 year, now. And for that we need to have a plan, concentration, and decisiveness, and partners. And what is ugly? Ugly is Putin. And we definitely need to undertake the best to finish Putin's Russia. Not to put the Ukrainian blue and yellow flag on the Kremlin, but to finish Putin Russia, country of dictator, country of terroristic attack, because this is the ugliest thing, not only for Ukraine. If you take any country in Europe, or even not in Europe, Poland, Baltic states, Finland, how yesterday Putin, within one short speech, making a public word attack on Poland, Baltic, Finland, Scandinavian, Ukraine, Armenia, and all the nations. But from my personal experience, when I have a visit to Japan, and when I have a meeting with a good friend of mine, great person, Prime Minister Abe of Japan, he said, look, we are on the different part of the planet, but unfortunately we have one ugly neighbor. And this ugly neighbor is Putin. That's why Japan all the time would be shoulder to shoulder with you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, thank you for that. A clarification, perhaps. Are we talking about Putin's Russia, or are we talking about Putin, the embodiment of imperialist Russia with its long traditions from the Tsarist period, the Soviet period? Putin is not the beginning of the problem that we're facing.
Maybe I say a little bit unpopular thing, but Putin is a beginner. Because Russia under Yeltsin and Russia under Putin is a two different Russia. And Putin make a disastrous transformation of Russia. In Russia we have no democracy. In Russia we have no pluralism. In Russia we have no independent court. In Russia we have no independent mass media. In Russia we have no opposition. And do you know what? I definitely do my best, and I definitely fight for that. That Ukraine, even under the condition of war, never switch, never transform in the Putin type's state. With no democracy, with no rule of law, with no independent media, with no opposition. That's why our fighting against Russian aggression is extremely important. But our fighting for democracy, our fighting for European future, our fighting for make Ukrainian armed forces stronger, our fighting for Armia, Mova, Vira is the condition of Ukraine to be European nation, condition for our future.
Mr. President, I'm just thinking out loud now, Armia, Vira, Mova. Do you not think that President Zelensky suddenly has adapted your strategy, but now going even further and alienating Poland in the last 2 or 3 days with his emphasis on Melnik and Bandera?
Let's separate these two questions. First, I have even rumors that President Zelensky steal Armia Mova Vira from President Poroshenko. This is not true. I give him Armia Mova Vira as a gift. And he definitely use it. Because Armia Mova Vira, this is not now belongs to Poroshenko or Zelensky. This is the condition of the new democratic European, independent from Russia state. And I think that the only way how we can build up the new Ukraine is make a fundamental principle. Now it's not only Armia Mova Vira, it's also Armia Mova Vira, EU and NATO. And all these 5 factors means, again, final farewell to Russia. That's why that make Putin so crazy. Creation of our independent church, make Putin crazy. He is already defeated. Protecting and development Ukrainian language with a quota of Ukrainian films, with a quota of Ukrainian radio program, with a quota of Ukrainian TV program, with a Ukrainian internet segment. This is second powerful strike on Putin. And our army. Our army is so different. And it's so powerful because if you ask me, as a former Minister of Foreign Affairs or fifth President of Ukraine, what is the key and very powerful factor of Ukrainian diplomacy? My answer would be armed forces. And now, from the diplomacy of partnership, strategic partnership, we also add diplomacy of drones. You should notice how big transformation make drones. At the 2014, they called drones as a wedding camera. No necessary for the armed forces. And today, we talk that this is finish on the existence of the tank brigade of Russia or in the whole world. In the 2024, we have a tank column moving to Kiev. Believe me, not anymore. Era of tank of Russia would be finished by drones of Ukraine. And that's why drone diplomacy is very effective. And that's why it makes me crazy, and I hate this proposal when our government proposed in the Ukrainian parliament the position that we should take 40 billion hryvnia from Ukrainian Ministry of Defense for buying Ukrainian drones and move it to some populistic initiative. No. Drone is a factor of diplomacy. Drone is a factor of European integration. Drone is a factor of existing and future of Ukraine.
Okay, let's step back a little bit to 2014, just to draw some lessons from that. You were elected president. You were seeking a peaceful solution. This is before the Minsk Accords. And I remember I was in Geneva then, working for the UN. There was a meeting in Geneva in which the United States and I think Poland were represented. And suddenly the Americans under Obama pulled out, and it was left to Merkel and the French president to kind of run the negotiations that became known as the Minsk Accords, right? And today we see America withdrawing again. Europe, shall we say, being galvanized and getting its act together, slowly but perhaps surely. What lessons or parallels do you see with 14 and 26?
Look, definitely, immediately when I was elected as a president, based on my promises on the election campaign, I do my best to stop the war. In year 2019, candidate of President Zelensky said also that he make not stop the war, not peace deal. If you listen to his message, that was ceasefire, immediate ceasefire. I declare that I give Putin 7 days, 1 week, to make a ceasefire. It's not happened. I never said that things, but already in September, I don't have even one single battalion outside of the front line to stop Putin troops. Why? Because immediately after the fleeing of Yanukovych, we have less than 5,000 troops ready to fight. And that's why volunteers from Maidan directly go to Petrivtsi and then on the front line. Go using the school buses, sport shoes, and civilian clothes. not having one single armed jacket, not having enough weapons and ammunition. And with that situation, it was a miracle that we create the strategy who allow us to provide the ceasefire. Ceasefire start not at the 12th or 15th of February year 2015. Ceasefire, first ceasefire, was started 5th of September 2014. Then memorandum 19th of September 2014. And nobody believed that we can stop Putin from his offensive operation, which he planned.
Mr. President, sorry for interrupting. I was working with the UN then, representing the Department of Political Affairs, and we used to come to your office at 2 o'clock in the morning with Under-Secretary General Jeff Feltman. You were very eloquent and honest in describing Ukraine's situation and needs, but you also appealed for blue helmets late in 2014, and there was no real serious response to that. What about today? Who will monitor any ceasefire line if we ever get to that stage? Hopefully we will. But what lessons do you draw from that? Is it feasible to demand that allies, not some people who are disinterested in Ukraine, actually take the role of peacekeepers for a while?
In the year 2014, 15, and 16, that was definitely possible. And when I make an appeal in year 2014, everybody has very big doubt about that. But I can tell you, on my negotiation with the President Xi, in year 2015, 2016, I received the firm guarantee that China will support on the Security Council United Nations voting for the blue helmet in Ukraine. Can you imagine that on my meeting in White House, meeting not only with Obama or Biden, but with the President Trump, and you can confirm that, who hate United Nations. He definitely stands in the position that this is just wasting money of United States taxpayers financing United Nations because of its inefficiency. But after 2 hours we spent together in the Oval Office, Trump asked immediately to connect him with the permanent representative in New York and said, I instruct to support proposal for the blue helmet in Ukraine.
This was what years?
That was in year 2016, 2017. And in the Berlin summit, with the presence of Putin, Hollande, Macron, and Merkel, Putin said that yes, it is acceptable. We have a discussion, does it should be police mission? Does it should be blue helmet on the border between Ukraine and Russia? But blue helmet is working. Now, I doubt. Do you know why? Because after wild-scale aggression of Russia against Ukraine, Russia is one of the permanent members of Security Council of United Nations. Russia is simply destroy the most efficient security mechanism in the world after World War II. And that's why we are not, theoretically that would be good. Theoretically it's still possible. But now, the security guarantee for Ukraine should be in the form of boots on the ground. And that's why now, undisputably, we should demand not peace deal of 28 points, not peace deal of 20 points, not encourage, not 41 security guarantee. No, forget about that. The only thing we need to demand now and urgently is comprehensive, immediate, unconditional ceasefire. And immediately after that, and that's why we need to use the instrument of drones attack, of armed forces, of sanction of our partners, of new weapon supply, of the finance of Ukrainian defense industry, and all the trump card we have in our hands to receive one single thing: immediate ceasefire from Russia. And immediately after this ceasefire, we need to have on the table for negotiation Europe, because the same as nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine, it should be nothing about Europe without Europe. We should have United States, and we should have Russia, and we should have this negotiation, but when the war is, if not stopped, but suspended. And definitely, I promise you, the same way like we do it in year 2015, because again, I see the Minsk agreement is the greatest achievement of Ukrainian, European, and global diplomacy that give us a chance, give us an air to create army, to create state, to create financial basis and economy, and at the end of the day, to create Ukraine. Now, we should definitely use the same. Ceasefire now, build up defense industry, build up security guarantee in the form of the boots on the ground. First line would be Ukrainian armed forces. Second line would be partners, boots on the ground. And third line, maybe situated on the Polish, Romanian, or Baltic states, that would be air defense, which close the sky above Ukraine. That is my formula of peace, my formula of stopping the war.
Okay, that's very clear. We're coming to the end, so let's perhaps just elaborate a little bit more. So ceasefire gives us breathing space, but in the longer term, what kind of peace settlement would you see is required for Ukraine to live comfortably, securely? Are we talking about a new security architecture in Europe, or perhaps a remodeling of NATO or even the EU? In a few words, how would you see what is needed for Ukraine for long-term stability and peace?
That's a very good question. I have a detailized plan. And if answering with a few words, I need about 40 minutes. But if you said one word would be EU and NATO membership of Ukraine. Please don't forget about NATO. Please don't try to find out any replacement of NATO in the form of Budapest Memorandum style security guarantee. Ukraine wasted 4 years trying to make a family photo and to create a security guarantee with a, I don't know, from Liechtenstein to Monaco. It's not working. The only way, even if anybody said that the door of NATO is closed for Ukraine, no. Because NATO is a union of democratic states. And those people who are against of Ukrainian membership in NATO simply would be not re-elected some days, or his term would be finished. But Ukraine will exist definitely forever. And with that situation, we should put at the final point of our strategy Ukrainian membership in NATO. And when after ceasefire, Ukraine would be member of EU, member of NATO, that would be the final defeat of Putin. And for that, we need not only ceasefire. Our process of European integration should be, first, merit-based. We need to deliver reforms, not just knocking at the door with an unreformed, non-democratic, without rule of law country. This is not working. Second, it should be inclusive. That should not be just a responsibility of the President Zelensky Ukrainian government of moral majority. This responsibility of all Ukrainian people. And that's why our unity is a key factor for our European Union integration.
Okay, Mr. President.
And third factor, okay, this is the armed forces. No matter if it is ceasefire or non-ceasefire. The only security guarantee outside of the NATO membership I accept and recognize is a powerful, modern, motivated Ukrainian armed forces.
Thank you for that. Now, to conclude, the theme that you touched upon, so vital, unity, on two levels, please. You've always advocated a unified effort, shall we say, within the country to reach a settlement, but also to solve ongoing problems while the war exists. Are we any closer to that? And secondly, I think I'd like to finish on that, because I'm being told that we're running out of time. Unity after the war. How do we guarantee that our society here in Ukraine doesn't split along not so much linguistic lines, but say those who were at the front, those who stayed behind, those who went abroad, etc. Your thoughts on that, please.
I have only one, again, in one word, because time is finished. How we can keep the unity after the war. One word: democracy. What does it mean, democracy? Free, fair, and democratic elections should be recognized by the whole world. By the way, not only presidential, because presidential election give a strategy but do not give a unity, but parliamentary election. Because in the new and future Ukrainian parliament should be represented all the forces and all part of Ukrainian people, from the military person to the pensioner, from the businessman to the public activist, should be represented in the parliament by democratic mechanism. And when we will have a democracy, when we will have an election, all the discussion would provide not on the street of Ukraine, but in the parliament. A real parliament of the parliamentary presidential republic of Ukraine.
Well, I think nobody will disagree with that. Please, a round of applause for President Poroshenko for this stimulating and enlightening session. We thank you, and Slava Ukraini, Heroyam, and may the future be kind to us. Thank you very much.
Such a great pleasure, Bogdan, to be together with you.